Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special episode, our penultimate episode of the Lodestar Summer Series. Today, we're going to talk about all things COVID cooking related. I think this is actually our COVID cooking compilation to really lean into the alliteration here. So, in our penultimate Summer Series episode, I'm once again joined by Elena Gardner. Sorry, I forgot an adjective for you that time. But we can let you add it in later in the episode if you want.
Perfect.
So we both talk about cooking a lot. So we figured this is a fun episode to talk about, especially kind of how things have changed cooking wise for you, over COVID. So I
So,
think sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
I think the first question is, like a lot of people, I was cooked a lot more because I was home a lot more during COVID. And I've realized one thing I like about cooking is just getting something and chopping it up into a bunch of little pieces. Like, I think that actually really relaxes me. And I've come to realize too that a lot in running a business and starting a business and doing things in sales and marketing is never ending, right? But cooking has a set beginning, middle, end, and then you eat. So I actually really like that about it. And I think I realize more and more because I'm kind of a control freak. Cooking is something there where you have a ton of control. So that's what I like about cooking. Would love to hear how you feel about that before we get into some of these specific questions
I,
that
I
we
would
have.
say I would never would have guessed that you're a control freak, Jim, ever.
Shut up. Shut up.
It's okay. I've been accused of the same thing. Very a lot. It was just too easy. Dave would be disappointed if I didn't take it. I love chopping things up, and I'm the exact opposite. I have decided it is totally worth it to buy either the pre-made chopped veggies or the frozen chopped veggies.
Mm.
They're all the same. They're going in the pot for the soup. So yeah, that was definitely
Oh no,
something
you
that
need those fresh veggies. Plus, you get the nice knife out, and it's just so much fun to just really chop
to
things
just
quickly. With one
chop.
exception, my most hated cooking prep is anything related to herbs.
I don't like chopping herbs. They're
Like
really
dealing,
annoying.
like cleaning a thing I had of cilantro and like getting the dirt out and ripping it out. It's the biggest pain.
I also don't love garlic. I don't love prepping garlic. I love eating garlic, but I don't love prepping garlic.
I use way too much garlic in all of my cooking. So like
There's no such thing as
every
too much garlic.
every time I do mise en place, the first thing I do is peel a head of garlic, usually.
Feel a full head.
Depends what I'm making, sometimes more. I was actually cooking for some family in a event that we had this weekend, and I think I peeled 4 heads of garlic. I actually made my wife help me with the peeling of the cloves, but yeah,
No, that is a lot of garlic. I
there's
thought
a
I
lot of garlic.
see, like, if I'm making a recipe and it says 4 cloves of garlic, I am definitely using at least 6, depending on the size of the cloves. So like I
Yeah,
thought I used a lot of garlic, like 1.5 to 2 times the amount of garlic the recipe calls for.
yeah,
I think that's a healthy amount of garlic,
I think so.
personally.
There's
My
only been a
husband,
few times I felt something was too garlicky.
I've had a couple moments,
Yeah.
just a few. When it
Mm.
burns, it's a little questionable.
It's true. Yeah. Or when it's just raw and like a little too much of that like raw garlic bite. I made
Yeah,
like a
the
dip that was a little
raw
too
garlicky.
garlicky at one point. So over COVID, what was your biggest cooking accomplishment?
So I started, like many others, I started my own sourdough starter. And
Mhm.
yes, I was kind of in line with everyone else. I will say mine is still alive, first of all. So I think that's something. I started this in April of 2020. It's been alive for over a year at this point.
That's a lot.
And I was a baker before the sourdough, like a pretty
Mm.
consistent baker. I made cupcakes for my own wedding. So like that's my qualification. I made 250 cupcakes for my own wedding. That's what
Yeah.
I'm going to say. What would you say you learned that you're most proud of?
Homemade pizza dough.
Okay.
Yep. And it was I did not do sourdough, but I pizza was something that my grandma would always make pizza growing up, and it was like a big part of like what we'd have at family parties. And she had these four so like pizza pans that were like tin and like paper thin. And like they literally taste like pizza at this point because I think she got them from her mother. So it was like 100+ years old. So there's like this very thin Italian style grandma pizza, we called it, that we would always have. And I finally learned from her how to make the pizza. I got one of the pans that I got passed down. And I'm able, like, I kind of have pizza in that style, but then just make like all sorts of different pizza now too. But I would never make my own dough. So I did like finally get a dough recipe I was happy with, felt good about it. I still usually just get frozen dough and thaw it out, but at least I have the ability to make pizza dough too.
That makes sense.
And I think that was also gets me into my other biggest accomplishment, which is one, being in Philly. Compared to New York, the bagels aren't as good here. They're just not. I'm sorry.
They're not.
There's
they're not
no
great.
beating a New York caliber bagel. And I finally have the skill set to make a bagel that good. It takes a day. So like I don't do it often, but if you're interested, please message us. I will share the bagel recipe and insight on how to make a New York caliber bagel at home.
It only takes a day.
Well, I mean, most of it is like letting it rest overnight.
Yeah. Most of it.
Prep it
Most
the day
of bread
before.
making is just waiting.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of waiting in that, but and then you boil the bagels before. So, but that's always like a fun, especially when you're in an area where you can't get good bagels. It's always a fun treat. And like eating them out of the oven too, like you're not even toasting them because they're just so like hot and fresh out of the oven. So that is probably my second cooking accomplishment as well.
Yeah, I worked a lot on my bread during the pandemic because before I've always been a sweets baker. So I've always leaned pretty heavily into the cookies and the cupcakes and all that. And it's a very different chemistry than bread making. Bread making is its own science.
Yeah.
But I definitely went hard into bread making with the sourdough, with other intricate loaves. I made like a tomato braided beautiful roll last year. And there are these things that just take a ridiculously long amount of time and are great to make when you're unemployed.
Yeah.
Just saying it. It's
definitely the things that you make once, or this is a weekend cooking project or something like that.
Yeah. But I definitely, my I don't buy this anymore item is definitely burger buns. I do not buy those anymore for the most part. You know, you can always occasionally, you got to stop at the store and you're like, oh yeah, they asked us to bring buns and pick up some brioche. But just being able to make brioche honestly is amazing. Like you said, it's a day to make brioche, and it's a lot of butter, it's a lot of milk, and it's some of the most delicious bread that you will ever have.
The thing I do, I still get burger buns or other things, but one of the things I discovered during COVID is how nice homemade croutons are for salad. And also how like stupid easy they are. So like any bread that's like about to go stale, cut it up, put olive oil and some seasoning on it, roast it until like it's just kind of golden brown, and throw it on salad.
Also bagel chips. Bagel chips are delicious. And they're so
bagel
easy.
Chips. Croutons, that's for me the thing I'll never buy again because why?
Because why?
So
no, my problem is I never have bread in my house unless I've made it. And then if I've made it, it's gone in like 2 days because it's delicious and you gotta eat it fresh.
Apparently bread freezes really well.
Apparently, I've never done it because all I want to do is eat it while it's warm.
Yeah, I can understand that. So I think the last question I had for our COVID cooking compilation was your biggest cooking fail.
Oh, so mine's definitely, I have redeemed myself. But I decided at one point that I wanted to try to grill my pizza, which wouldn't have gone terribly wrong, I don't think, if I hadn't forgotten to oil the pan. So I just had burnt pizza, which looked amazing on top. That's the torturous part. It just looked beautiful, completely stuck to the pan. It's heartbreaking.
That's tough.
Pizza was lost forever.
I thought you were going to say you weren't going to cook both sides of the dough, because I feel like that's a common pizza grilling mistake.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. You just got to throw it on there, 500 degrees, really quick. Close it. We good.
Oh no. See, I cook one end of the pizza, take it off, flip it, top it, and then put the other end on. And that way too, you keep the temperature like what you normally would for the oven around 400 degrees.
Oh no, I like make
Yeah.
it really thin, and
Mhm.
jack up the heat as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to talk about this a little bit more. I haven't grilled pizza in a while though. So
Yeah, I mean,
you may have
I've only
inspired me to do
succeeded
that
once,
this
so
weekend.
maybe don't listen to me. I want to make that disclaimer. But since you have a bagel recipe, I will say if anyone wants an amazing vanilla bean cupcake recipe, I got you.
No, we'll see. We'll see how many people actually listen to this enough to get our recipes. So my cooking fail was I was reading the Julia Childs book about her time in France. It was really good. I was reading it during COVID, and there's a large part of it that was about making mayo and like basically how much better it is to make your own mayo instead of buying it in a store. And I could just not figure out how to make mayo. I
It's hard.
first was doing it manually. Then and also like you can't make a small amount of mayo because of like having to be in the blender and having to use a few eggs. Like you either make like 2 cups of mayo or none. And I went through probably almost like 6 eggs just attempting to make mayo and it just never being able to make it work. So I know there's hacks with like a blender, other things like that. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I tried doing it manually to first, which was an awful idea.
Food processor.
Yeah.
Food processor. You pour things in the top.
Yeah. I think I also have a fairly large food processor. So I need like 4 egg whites to start, which is just going to give you a phenomenal amount of mayonnaise.
That's a lot of mayo.
So yeah. So that was my biggest fail. I think it took 3 times and then I just finally gave up of like this isn't going to happen. This isn't going to happen anymore. So
but you tried, which is what matters.
That's the important thing. Yeah. I think if we're end on any note on cooking, it's just try. And usually even if it doesn't look good, it's probably going to taste good. That's the most important thing.
And if it tastes terrible, give up on it and order pizza. It's happened. Everyone's had that moment of I tried to make this amazing meal. It feels really defeating. Just order dinner and you will be fine.
The end of the day, it's just dinner.
It's just dinner. You tried and maybe you didn't succeed, but you tried.
Yeah. Well, thank you for going on this culinary journey with me. I'm sure we'll talk about things even more cooking related offline. Is there anything that we forgot to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Excellent. Well, hopefully, please reach out to us with your cooking thoughts, recipes, anything you want to share. We'd be very excited to hear about it.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Elena. Talk to you all later.
Yay.